Hello everyone. So in today's video, I am going to share a foolproof all butter pie crust recipe with you. And then we're going to probably double the recipe. It makes 2 pie crusts per recipe. And I'm going to put some in my freezer. So that's what we're doing in today's video. Okay, so to start, I have some partially frozen butter here. I'm using salted butter. You are supposed to use unsalted, but I only have salted, so I'm just going to cut down the salt a little bit in the recipe. So I'm doubling this recipe. Each recipe makes 2 pie crusts, so we're making 4, hopefully. So let's hope this is thawed enough. Yes, it is. Okay, so partially frozen butter, you want it to be really, really cold. So in this recipe, partially frozen, like half frozen, really works best. So we're cutting it into cubes. I'm actually going to, because half of one of these is 1 cup. I think I can only do 1 recipe at a time in here, so I just want to separate it. And then just cut them into cubes. I like using the food processor for making pie crust. It's fast and easy. So I'm just chopping them up into cubes. Okay, I'm going to put this one directly in here while it's still nice and cold. We'll do half a recipe at once here. Or pardon me, 1 whole recipe at a time. Okay, I'm going to chop this one up and put it in my bowl here. And then I'm going to put it in the fridge while we're waiting, just so it stays nice and cold. It's very important that the butter stays cold. I do prefer an all butter crust, no lard, but you can use lard, just not in this recipe. I prefer butter because it makes the pie crust flaky. Light and flaky, so. This method is pretty foolproof, so I hope you guys try it, especially if you have issues making pie crust. Let's just transfer this. Okay, I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and I'll be right back. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, I washed my hands. They were a little bit oily from the butter. Okay, so for my recipe here, we need 2 1/4 cups of flour. We're going to put everything right in. You want to make sure you level off your butter, or your flour, pardon me. Two and a quarter. And 1 teaspoon of salt, but I use salted butter, so I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, now let's pulse this. You want it to be, the butter to be the size of a pea, no smaller than the size of a pea. Just want to make sure it's not getting too small. it does do it quite quickly. So we're already there. That was fast. Okay, I'm going to give you a closer look to show you what it should look like. Okay, you see how there's little pea-sized shapes? That's what you want. Okay, so now let's start adding the cold water. Okay, so you want ice cold water, like with ice cubes in it. It needs to be that cold. So we're going to start adding 1 tablespoon at a time. The recipe says that 8 tablespoons is usually good, but it really depends on how you did things. So that's what we're going to do. So we're supposed to turn it on. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take a look and see how that looks. Starting to get some moisture to it. So we're at 4. Let's keep going. 8. Let's see. Starting to do something. 9. Okay, let's check the texture of this. It's 9. That actually feels like it might be perfect. Let me feel. See, all I'm doing is clumping it together. You see? I think that's perfect. Okay, so that was 9 tablespoons of ice water that I put in. Okay, so let's take this out and form balls. Okay, so all I'm going to do is dump this out. Get most of it off of the blade here. So I really like making pie dough ahead of time. And then, sorry, I'm going to interject here for a sec. So you just want to push it all together, combine it into a ball. So I really like making pie dough ahead of time. I like doing it all at once, less mess. And this recipe freezes super well. So as you can see, this does make 2. So let me get my cutter here. Let's just separate this into 2 and we'll form them into balls. Looks good. So all I want to do with these, form them into a ball. I'm making these mainly for Christmas. Save myself some time. Oh, the butter, you can feel it. It's nice. Okay. So I'm just going to put them in little round balls like this, like a disc. I like to flatten them a little bit so they can stay in the freezer nice. There we go. Now we just need to package it. I'm going to package them all at once. This is like the perfect moisture. So 8 to 9 tablespoons should be almost perfect for this recipe. Here we go. I'm going to get a plate to put these on and we'll put them in the fridge while we're making the second recipe. Okay. I'm just going to pop these in the fridge and we'll make the second one. Okay, let's put the mixer back together here. Here's my butter out of the fridge. Nice and chilled still. Okay, let's put in half a teaspoon of salt. If you are using unsalted butter, do a whole teaspoon. Okay. 2.25 cups of flour. This pie dough recipe turns out perfect every time I've made it. And this is the process that I usually do every time. 2.25. Okay, so let's pulse it. Remember not to over pulse it. You only want it the size of a pea. Here, I'll give you another look. As you can see, there's big chunks in here, but they're about the size of a pea. It really doesn't take long to get it really nice in the food processor. It's so much faster than doing it by hand too. But if you prefer to do it by hand, you totally can. If you do make this recipe by hand, just make sure everything stays really, really cold. That's the key to this recipe's success, is making sure your ingredients are super cold. Okay, so let's add the water. So the last one we did 9 tablespoons. So let's hope that's how much this one takes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Okay, so that was 9, so let's look at it. See if it needs more. Make sure it's mixed really well. I'm just making sure the bottom's mixed nice. Okay, let's try and see. Yep, perfect. Okay, now let's form these into balls, and then we will package it all. Okay, so let's dump it out on our surface again. Put this in the sink. Okay, so we're going to form a ball. You do not want too much moisture in your pie dough. It won't be as nice and flaky. And you do not want to overwork it either. That is super important. So all I'm doing is just forming them together here. Try to make sure I got all of it. Flatten it and shape it to the shape that I like to freeze it in. I like to shape it in rounds just because it's a little easier once it's nice and cold to really roll it out into a pie shape. That's literally the only reason for that. That, and it actually doesn't take up as much space in my freezer. Limited freezer space. Flatten it. The butter feels really good in this. Okay, so Let me wipe the counter a little bit, just so we're not getting mess all over the saran wrap here. And then we will package these, and I'll show you how I package them for the freezer. How I do it is I lay out saran wrap. I wrap each one in saran wrap. Please keep in mind that I don't really keep too many of these in the freezer, usually maybe 4 or 5 at once, so they do get used pretty quickly. So start with wrapping them. This pie dough is also good with savory applications as well. Okay, so now that they're saran wrapped, let me get the other ones out of the fridge. We'll saran wrap these ones too. So I do a double layer of protection. You can also use Ziplocs, that's fine too. But this is my preferred method. There we go. And then I have these reusable freezer bags. I love these. If you want to know where I bought them, they're in my description box. And I usually stick maybe 2 or 3 per bag as a double layer of protection. Maybe, let's see, can I get all 4 in? Maybe. Yes, perfect for 4. These are 1-gallon bags that I'm using. And I just try to take out as much of the air as possible, and it's got a double layer of protection. And then I just freeze them. And then I take one out the morning of when I'm ready to use them, and the work's all done for me. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed my no fail, foolproof pie crust recipe. Just in time for Christmas. And I hope you guys try it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.